Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Here's a look at our top stories tonight. John Lee signals that COVID measures may end as Hong Kong reconnects with the world. The Hong Kong Marathon is back, but at a later date as the government pledges full support. And COVID cases in Hong Kong continue dropping, but a 2-year-old boy is in intensive care. A COVID expert says the government should start to relax restrictions as the city has entered an endemic phase. This comes as Chief Executive John Lee gave a strong hint of further easing, although he set no timetable. Janice Low reports.
Chief Executive John Lee says the government is doing its best to reconnect with the rest of the world as COVID cases in Hong Kong decline. But he set no timetable on the further easing of COVID restrictions, including hotel quarantine.
While we will do our best to control the epidemic, we aim to have the maximum connection with the international world and also to reduce the inconvenience to people who arrive at Hong Kong. That is a very clear goal. We want to ensure that as we progress to allow more activities, we do it in an orderly way so that when people go through the process, they feel comfortable with the process, and we will reduce the inconvenience as much as we can.
Earlier, government advisor Yuen Kwok-yung said COVID has become endemic in Hong Kong and restrictions should be relaxed. While health officials said the fatality rate is nearly 0.6%, Yuen pointed that it has been under 0.1% since June when social distancing measures were eased. He attributed the drop to the high vaccination and infection rate during the fifth wave. Yuen said as the number of imported infections only account for 2% of the total caseload, Hong Kong meets the criteria to implement the 0+7 quarantine arrangement. Janice Low, HKIBC.
A senior mainland official has hinted that Beijing supports Hong Kong reopening up with the world. At a press conference in Beijing, Huang Liuquan noted that the SAR government has been saying there is no contradiction between connecting with the world and the mainland. The deputy director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office said the pandemic has affected global links and adjustments to COVID measures are needed according to the situation. On a separate note, Huang said claims that the national security law is making Hong Kong become like the mainland are alarmist and politically prejudiced. The Hong Kong Marathon is set to go on ahead after all, but in February next year. The organizers say they are actively planning on holding the event after securing full support from the government. Joanna Ho reports.
Just 4 days after canceling this year's marathon, the Hong Kong Association of Athletics Affiliates says it is now actively planning on staging it on February 12. The association had called off the event, originally scheduled for November, as it had not received government approval, leaving little preparation time for runners and others who are involved. But today, the organizers said the government has given them full support. The association assured that it'll strictly follow anti-epidemic measures and work closely with officials. Sports sector lawmaker Kenneth Fok welcomed the organizers' new decision. Before the U-turn, Chief Executive John Lee expressed disappointment that the association did not wait for the government's reply.
So regarding the big events that every one of us have been very interested in, such as the marathon and also the Dragon Boat event, of course, we will be doing all our best so that we will be having all these events to happen in Hong Kong, because this is what everybody wants to see happen, and it will create a lot of economic gains for Hong Kong as well.
Lee was also referring to decision by the International Dragon Boat Federation to switch next year's championships to Thailand because of Hong Kong's quarantine requirements for arrivals. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Sports Commissioner Yeung Tae-keung says the number of runners for the Hong Kong Marathon next February will remain at 25,000. He also explained why it took time for the government to approve the event.
For the marathon originally scheduled in November, end of November, we received a proposal from the Hong Kong 888 on the 7th of September. And up to last week, we were still processing the application. And the number of participants in the proposal was 25,000. And so because of the number of participants is quite large, so it takes time for the relevant government departments to consider the proposal and advise on the necessary precautionary measures.
Yeung added that discussions on anti-epidemic measures, such as starting the race in different batches, are still underway. The decline in COVID cases in Hong Kong has continued, with infections falling to a fresh one-month low. But a 2-year-old boy is fighting for his life after his symptoms worsened and he developed a severe brain condition. Chloe Feng reports.
A 2-year-old boy with a high viral load is now in intensive care in United Christian Hospital. He was said to have received a jab 3 weeks ago and developed a fever last Sunday before testing positive a day later. Hospital Authority Chief Manager Gladys Kwan said the boy was admitted with upper respiratory symptoms, seizures and breathing difficulties. A preliminary brain scan showed signs of cerebral edema, in which excessive fluid accumulates in the skull. The boy is now relying on breathing equipment to maintain his vital signs. Kwan again appealed to parents to get their children vaccinated to avoid serious infections. Hong Kong's daily COVID caseload, meanwhile, continued to drop. The 5,594 infections today included 135 imported ones. There were also 7 COVID-related deaths. Although another 235 COVID patients were admitted to hospital, taking the tally to about 2,500. The total was lower than in previous days. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
Democratic Party Chairman Low Kin-hei and 3 others have pleaded not guilty to participating in an unlawful assembly in Tsim Sha Tsui 3 years ago. 10 people were charged in 2 cases with illegal assembly and possessing instruments fit for unlawful purposes during clashes between police and protesters at the Polytechnic University in 2019. 2 men and 2 women admitted the illegal assembly charge. They were remanded in custody until sentencing on the 11th of next month. 2 other defendants were infected with COVID and didn't appear in court today. The police watchdog has revealed that more than half of the complaints lodged against officers in the first 8 months of this year were revoked or non-pursuable. That's because the complainants were not cooperative, according to the Independent Police Complaints Council, the IPCC.
The answers will have to come from the complainants themselves. I don't know why people have been lodging complaints but do not follow up. Some people refuse to even give their names. Right, and many don't give their contact information, and some refuse to be cooperative. I don't understand.
As to the 2 cases involving court, those defendants tried to make use of the complaint as one of the defense. After either they were acquitted or they were convicted, they become out of reach again.
The IPCC also commented on a complaint by a local journalist who was allegedly hit by a sponge grenade fired by police during the 2019 protests. It agreed with the complaints against police office that the claim was unsubstantiated. A man was arrested for sedition outside a British Consulate General last night. He was detained as hundreds of people gathered in Admiralty to mourn Queen Elizabeth. Police said they arrested a man on suspicion of sedition at around 9:30 p.m. It is understood that the 43-year-old suspect had played the 2019 protest song, Glory to Hong Kong. A powerful earthquake has struck western Mexico, killing at least 2 people. The magnitude 7.6 tremor occurred on the anniversary of 2 previous killer quakes. Winna Wong reports.
Residents of Mexico City rushed outdoors in the aftermath of the 7.6 magnitude earthquake. Some in the capital city were visibly shaken, while others tended to their injuries. On Twitter, President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador uploaded a video of himself among the crowd, trying to gather information. Authorities confirmed at least 2 deaths so far, while many more people are believed to be injured, as there were reports of severe damage in department stores and hospitals. The tremor near Mexico's west coast occurred around lunchtime yesterday, local time. Less than an hour earlier, quake alarms had been warbling across the country in a simulation to commemorate 2 other devastating quakes from previous years. It was very, very chilling to go through a simulation where everything was fake to living a real one just minutes later. I was scared, said this tourist visiting Mexico City for the first time. On September 19, 2017, a magnitude 7.1 earthquake hit the states of Puebla and Morelos, killing over 350 people. On the same day in 1985, an 8.1 magnitude quake resulted in thousands of deaths. Winna Wong, HKIBC.
Chief Executive John Lee has acknowledged the challenges to Hong Kong's economy, but urged people to have confidence in the city's strong points. Lee's remarks came as Hong Kong faces its 2nd worst budget deficit on record. Chloe Feng reports.
Chief Executive John Lee says Hong Kong has maintained its economic strength despite greater financial pressure, such as interest rate increases, supply chain disruptions, and COVID.
What we have been doing is ensuring that the right injection is being made into stimulating the economy. There is also some positive figures, such as the employment rate has dropped, if you look at the figures. So we should continue to have confidence in Hong Kong. Our strengths remain, such as our good infrastructure, our low taxation system, and also the resilience of society.
Lee's comments came after Financial Secretary Paul Chen warned that the city's deficit in the current financial year could exceed $100 billion, almost double his original estimate. The government collected only $17 billion from land sales in the first 5 months of the year, while stamp duty revenue is expected to fall by over 30%. On the other hand, expenditure surged with the rollout of the Employment Support Scheme and the Anti-Epidemic Fund. Lee, however, echoed Chen's optimism that another round of consumption vouchers next month will provide some relief for small and medium-sized enterprises. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 215 points. Top 10 active stocks. Tencent gained $4.40. Meituan gained $3.20. AIA gained 45 cents, and JD.com gained $7.60. Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar. Euro at 7.83, British pound at 8.96, and the Australian dollar at 5.26. Onto the weather now. Tomorrow will be sunny and dry with a temperature between 27 and 31 degrees. Similar conditions for the rest of the week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Good night.